Welcome back, boys and some girls. I got a request to make this video by tons of people, so here we go. Just kidding, it was only 2 people. So just 2 people. Okay, my first tip, very simple tip, is you want to build in sans formation. What I mean by that? What I mean is you need to build your residential area with everything that you need inside of it. You need to build it like this, all together, and then you're going to build all the industrial area around it. If you try to build in any other shape, for example like this area, then you lose all of this area that could have been basically anything. So if it was me again in the future, I would push it a bit further inland and then would make it make the wall going over here so we can build even more stuff over there, instead of losing this whole area that people can live in here. But the closest place they can work is to the sides or to the front. This is perfect example. They can work all around the city, no problem. Whoever is going to work here is going to live here, and everybody is going to be happy as long as you have enough entrances to your city, basically. So this is the first tip. Just build these things incrementally. So what you do is you start a thing, you finish that, and you always make sure that you have stable amounts of things. So you're not gonna expand and make another complete city with tons of people inside of it when you're barely hanging on to food, right? You know that serfs, for example, needs a certain amount of food, right? So serfs only need rustic food, which is berries and fish. They only need 1 though. And if you give them additional needs, they need 1 more refined food. So basically you need to make sure that you have a stable amount of food, very stable amount of food, before you start your expansions. And again, you have to keep yourself stable in everything. Don't expand into something before you have a stable amount, a big stable amount of the things that you know you will need. That's the game. Make it step by step. My second tip is about food. Food is the most important thing for expansions. It's the most important food. It's kind of relating to point number 1, but again, food is the most important thing once you go about 200-300 population. If you want to go higher than that, then you need to go and triple down whatever you think you need in food. For example, let's say you need 100 food to sustain your kingdom, then no, you need to make enough for 300 food, because the transition in between places is horrible. So you need everything to be filled up for actual food to reach the sides of your map. So I need a ton of fish, I need a ton of stuff for things to actually reach the market over here. And you can see even with the amount that I have, I still don't have a great amount. People are bringing it in, but it's not good enough. You need tons of food to actually sustain a big kingdom. My third tip is about promoting citizen before you have enough goods. This time it's not food, it's goods. So what do you want to do is, let's go find us commoner so I can explain it easier. They need 2 refined foods, entertainment and goods, right? The goods you can have are clothes, common wares and candles. Candles, ignore them. It's just not worth it. It's just too much work to actually produce something that shirts and common wares can give you for much less work. So stick to those 2, because even citizens, which are the highest rank, they don't need 3, they only need 2. So you're good with only having those 2 because they are the easiest to make. Obviously do this only after what I said in the previous point, when you have enough food, enough of the refined foods to actually sustain those people. It will sometimes not work and then work, but most of the time they're gonna buy it, they're gonna have the 2 foods and you're gonna be golden. But again, make sure that you have a decent amount when we talked about the previous point before you think about promoting more people. The last thing about promotion is luxury items. So the 2 luxury items that I like to do, which are the most fun, is herbs and honey. Herbs and honey only take 1 building to produce. Basically you need a church, but you can also place the church near a city so people can actually go there and get their service thing from, so that you don't have to make another church beside of that. But you can also make the people that do the church here work in the fields and actually produce some honey and herbs, and then you basically sell the herbs and honey as the necessary luxury items. You can also make the rings, the jewelry and the gems, but they're much harder to get, and you either have to buy them or get extremely lucky in finding them while you're mining inside those kind of nodes. They come like very rarely, so I really don't recommend it. Again, even if it is like, if it was common, then you have to produce way more buildings instead of like one building to do that, because gold, you have to mine the gold, then you have to refine the gold, then you have to take the gems and connect it with the gold and then make it into jewelry. So it's just way too many buildings instead of like one building that produces whatever you need. You can send it around your kingdom and it's done. Another tip I forgot to say about the entertainment that is needed once you level up to commoners: just do berry brew. Again, same reasoning, one building. You can also use, obviously, where is it? Oh, the game is freezing, of course. You can also use, move ahead into here, you can use beer and wine. Both those buildings need way more things. You need the hemp for the beer, you need farm for the beer, then you need to make it into beer. The wine, same thing. You also need the barrels to make this. It's like way too much work. Instead, you just get the berries that you anyway collect to actually sell as rustic food for your serfs, and just bring it here. That's it. Make a building with berries, and that's pretty much it. It's gonna be very simple. They're gonna actually make all the berry brew, whatever you need, and you solve your situation without having to make tons of buildings. Simple. Okay, the next point is about taxes. Gold is a physical item that each building can collect, a physical thing, so you have to physically take it. I know it was very confusing for me at the start. I had to physically take it. I thought it would like magically appear in my coin tendency, would go here, but no, it's not. You have to build tax office and you have to employ tax collectors, and it's not enough to have people. Like if you have a giant kingdom like mine, you need more. You need one over here, you need one over here, because they can't collect everything. What you need to see basically is, once you place your tax office, is give it a moment, right click the coins to actually show on all the buildings, and if you see, for example, there was like a big amount of taxes over here that's not collected for a long period of time, then you can make another like building over here. Just basically put the buildings wherever you need them. But for me, I can see that everything is pretty much low, so I know that all the taxes are being collected anyway, so I'm not really worried about that. Like over here, it's the one that's the most farthest away, so it's like going the highest, but even then it's only like 23 out of 100, so I'm not even worried. So that's your thing about taxes. Make sure to physically collect them. Okay, next point is the charcoal maker. The charcoal makers don't actually need logs. They need the wood itself. They are the one chopping up the wood. Again, for me, it was something that I did I make a mistake. I actually made too many lumberjacks here because I thought they needed the logs themselves to make. But no, they're the one chopping down the trees. So you need to give them a location close to where the trees are being planted to actually take the wood themselves. Because if you would have like a bunch of like lumberjacks taking down all the wood, they would not give them the log, which logically they should. It makes sense, but it doesn't work this way. So you have to give them a whole area where trees are being planted and they can chop down the trees themselves. Another tip is for the forester camp, they don't overlap. You can't make them both grow things in the same area, so you have to make sure that you give them like smaller chunks for each one of them to actually paint a certain area for him. Because previously I thought you could just like the lumberjacking, so we can basically chop a wood in all this area. It doesn't work the same thing for I don't know why, but for some reason it doesn't work the same way for planting. So make sure you give like sub areas, otherwise you're just gonna basically waste the rest of your forester camps like me. Tip number 8 is about min-maxing the space that you have, because each place costs more and more gold per turn, or that's in order to return, but just gold per month. So you really should think how you create your stuff, because when you start up, it's not going to look like you're not going to have giant areas to make giant things. So what you need to do is, as you expand later on, is basically rearrange your things and make areas that specialize in things. For example, this one is my iron area, so my iron is coming here. I recommend making a warehouse, pressing here, the maximizing, again the game freezing, the stock maximum. It makes sure that all the iron that you have in any kind of warehouse, any kind of buildings in the game, is gonna come in here. This is like where everything should pool. Everything should come. And I have here the coal, same thing, coal is being made, and just going straight into this. like all the building over here, making tools and making iron. That's all they need. Everything in a central location. Same thing over there, just it's a bit more centralized because you need less area. Is the shirts, all the farms over here, right? Things are coming in here into the shirts, making it into wool, then out here into shirts. That's it, pretty much done. You have to again make this into more specified areas. Hunting here for me, farming here for me, just like a much larger area, but it's the same thing, like farming whole thing. And then you have the wheat coming here, maximized, being made into dough and then into bread here. Tip number 9, this one is pretty, like at the start you should do this. I don't have it yet because it's not a new game, but when you start out the game, you will be able to relook at those, like check those or survey those deposits to make sure if they're like, if they have something in them, right? You have to take your guy, send him there. It's going to take like 30 days, I think. Duration is going to be 30. I think it's going to cost you like 100 or 300 gold. Not really sure how much. And you basically send them. They're going to make sure they're going to come back. Make sure they surveyed all those nodes that you can see around the map. This. It's not a good location to actually show you this, but all the nodes around the map. This one, the one down there. All of those, make sure it's already well known, so whenever you expand, you know where you're going to expanding. You're going to be expanding to, so you're not going to waste your time going to something that you don't need. For example, I need this because it's iron, so I go in here, but I'm not going to buy, like if this was a separate area and not the same thing, I would not buy this area just for this because I don't need quartz. It's just going to be a waste of gold per month, and also all the buildings I would make over there, it's just going to be a waste. So make sure you have explored everything before you start any serious expansion. If you want to buy like something small here just for the sake of making like a wood farm, go for it, but don't make like any serious commitments like I'm going to buy all of this to get here to buy this whole place. Don't. First survey. Next, tip number 10, I'm not really sure about this one. It's the ratio between harvesting buildings and processing buildings. There's not seems to be like an exact number because all the gathering buildings have like a zone area. You paint the thing. It's not very specific. Kind of the same for the hunters over here. It's not very same-ish, kind of. What I noticed to be a somewhat normal number is you need more harvesting than you need processing. The ratio seems to be, from what it worked for me, is 1.4. So for every 1.4 harvesting building, you're gonna need 1 processing building. If efficiency is at max, that means this one needs serfs, for example, right? So if your processing needs a commoner, then they need to be commoners for the efficiency to be maxed. This one needs commoner. Have them two of them are commoners, so it's gonna be 100% efficiency. If they weren't commoner, they were serfs, I will need to have 2 buildings instead of 1. So again, 1.4 to 1 if it's an 100% efficiency. Okay, tip number 11, whenever you're starting out, you don't have the big walls. However, the game freezes just at the right time. When you're gonna start, you're gonna only have these wooden walls, these trash wooden walls that doesn't do much. They only give you light fortification. But as you expand, you're gonna have the heavy fortification. But at the start, make sure you're gonna build your encampment for the patrol inside the city, so you can build all the houses around it. The reason why is because it actually gives you heavy fortification for the buildings around it, meaning you're going to be able to have the highest density, the highest density kind of houses, to be able to house more citizens and get more taxes from it. It's really, really worth it. It's going to save you on the houses like area, on residential area. Mistakes I did here is basically not do this because I didn't even know it was a thing. It wasn't in the first, like in the early access. So I made like a giant area for residential areas, and it was all tier 1 houses because I had no idea you could do this. And later on, once you have the walls, make sure you take the thing out. For example, this one over here, I have the soldiers outside. They're not inside because I don't need to. I already had the walls, so I don't want to waste it, right? So this is the kind of thing. Make sure it's outside of the city to save you actual space. Tip number 13, for building like farms, either for the cheese or for the bread, it doesn't matter really which one. It's got the same thing for the wool over there, the sheeps. Make sure the farm is as closest as possible to the building. Even if you have to build the farm and the building away from the city. This way it works the best. Trust me, I did both ways. I tried to put the farms over here and the houses over here. Did not work. They actually give you like way less efficiency. As for example, they say this, if they put the house down here, it's gonna give you like maybe 2 milk each time the workers goes on a shift. But if they come here, it's gonna actually give you something like 6 or 8 buckets. So it's much worth it to actually put it farther away. Even if they're, let's say, gonna leave once in a while, it's gonna be fine. It's only serfs, nobody cares. You can just employ them right back in again the moment somebody comes. It's very simple and it's way worth it. So make sure to keep the farms close to the buildings. Number 14, I don't know if it's like an obvious thing, but if you want to unlock everything, it's gonna take you a lot of splendor from all of them. Best thing you can do is just spam buildings and things that make like, that give you a decent amount of splendor depending on the kind of splendor that you need for the church, for the kingdom, for the army, or for the labor, whatever you need. Make sure you just basically spam the correct buildings, and also make sure that you don't just spam random buildings, because some buildings, if you see, where is it? If you see this like coin thing with the 2 arrows around it, that's upkeep. So always make sure that your things that you're about to place down doesn't have an upkeep, because if it does, it's just gonna like murder your bank account. So make sure that you don't put accidentally anything that actually have upkeep on them. Just random decoration that only give you splendor but doesn't give you anything like any cost or anything like that. Next, number 15 is about your army. It's not worth it. Don't try it. Just don't. It's not worth making so much stuff, and you need so many companies, and you need so much like weapons, and to train them, and you need to give them quarters, and you need to upgrade them to high levels, and need more things, and the weapons, and they die, and then you need more weapons, and you need to recruit more people and upgrade them. It's just too much work to get a bunch of rings. It's just simply not worth it. It's cost you more than you actually get back from it. So I really don't recommend doing the whole like army thing, the missionary stuff, unless you want to do the missions the king give you. There is a mission here somewhere to just basically go to the court, and he's going to give you a mission. He's going to send your soldiers to war or something. If you want to do that, go for it. Again, I don't think it's worth it. It's just too much work, and you pay too much to get so little back. So I don't think it's worth it. That's it. Pretty simple. Just don't do it. All right. Next, I want to talk about trading. For trading, you don't have to. You can just not sell your stuff and rely only on taxes. It's a thing that you can do if you really want to. But if you want to upgrade your trade routes to get you more things because you trade more, then that's good. But if you're the kind of guy to rely on taxes only, kind of guy or girl to rely only on taxes, then don't. It's just going to be a waste of resources for yourself. Because if you look here, it's going to cost like 400 bread, 500 things, 500 polished stone, 300 planks. It's just going to cost you so much resources to upgrade things that you're not even using. So again, both things are viable. You can play them both however you want. You can just basically not sell anything and save the whole things for yourself. And that's going to be decent, because then you need to make less things to actually satisfy your own citizens. So it's a thing that you can do if you want to. You can also mix like both of them. If you want to only do like trades with certain people that only sell certain stuff, you can upgrade only them. The key thing here is to make sure that whatever you're upgrading, you're using, and just not upgrading things that you don't have any use for. Tip number 17 is don't be afraid to just kick some people out of the houses. Just destroy their house, who cares? They can rebuild them. And also they tend to be like empty houses like this one, that people just sit in there where they don't need to. Another thing is, for example, in the commoner house. This one is a commoner, so that's not a good example. But is there anybody here that's a serf? Yes. This guy is a serf, right? So let's see, you work here. You don't need to be anything else. So I can do like this. I can just go to his house. Your name is Simkin. Simkin. This guy is a serf. I can kick him out. And why do I kick him out? Because he's taking the house of a commoner that could live here. he can live in any kind of house. Commoners have to live in this kind of house. So I kick him, so he would actually go to a different kind of house, like a commoner, like a regular house, a serf house that has a space, right? But instead he chose to live here because he loves to be annoying. So if you kick him out, if you have the time, go ahead. Just make sure you have every single building with only commoners. I'm not gonna do that because it's too boring and it just takes too much time. Just go one by one, make sure if they are what they are, if they don't need their job, and kick them out. You can do this if you want to. It's gonna save you a lot of space and a lot of buildings that don't need upgrading. Then they will stay on the level that you need to be. So serfs will stay serfs, commoner on commoners, and citizens for citizen. Tip number 18, once you have an actual working castle with things in it, these guys are gonna start showing up. These guys have certain needs and wants, just like any other citizen or any other NPC that you have in your kingdom. And once you fill up their needs, basically everything that they need to for a while, if you sit down here, you actually have a quest. Make sure their approval is above 80%. If their approval is above 80%, and they're gonna always stay wherever your main castle is, right? Because they're the royal something, royal knights. If you make sure that whatever you have here, for me that's my castle. If they come here and they're gonna be satisfied, you're gonna get a decent amount of gold and this amount of influence. So always make sure that they actually have whatever they need. So around the castle, make sure that there is like enough things so the knights won't actually feel, well, they're not gonna approve of this like trip, this vacation they're taking in your kingdom. Because if they don't, then you're gonna lose a lot of gold. So it's much worth it. Just again, make sure you know whatever they're doing. Next point, number 19, is technically you can have farms inside of forests, right? That are not bread. You can't make bread in there, but if I want to do like this, I can do this. It's gonna work. And if I look down there now, it's gonna be farmable thing. You can make this work if you really wanted to. I don't really, because it just kind of looks weird. And the nice thing is, if you do like this, right? And then you go and you check, for example, the hunting, you can still hunt here. So if you really, really want it, you can cram those two things together and save space by making farming and the boars right in the same area. You can do that. I don't, again, recommend it. Just kind of looks weird to have like cows running in the forest here. Like cows, sorry, sheep or cows. You can do the same thing for the milk. It looks kind of strange, so I'm not the one doing it, but just know that if you really wanted to cram things, you can. Number 20, you cannot have a lot of unemployed citizens in your kingdom for the very simple reasons that, just like real life, they take things. They want to live somewhere, they want to eat, they need service, they are paying taxes, just very low because they're only serfs. But there is a ton of things that they need, and they're gonna take spaces from your real citizens. So unless you're gonna give them a job, don't take them in your kingdom. I only took this guy to actually show you. I usually have 0. So yeah, don't take those guys unless you actually already have a job to give them. And you can also just press home on your keyboard and go back to the main village, just in case you didn't know. Number 21, the last tip, is focus on expanding old buildings. Don't make new ones. For example, these used to be only 3 farmers because I didn't have the upgrade, and I used to have like 4 farms around here and barely like half the space because I didn't have enough like farmers working in, so I couldn't make the farm as large. Once I could, I did, because they need less space. What I mean by that is I don't need to build another farm which needs another space, which means more people that need to go like live farther away, because the farm itself also takes space. So I can't make the house very, very close to it. I need to make this like, I need to make farms like one by one. I can't make them like building and then farms somewhere else. I have to build it somewhat like a strange weird shape that you see me making it here. So that's what I'm saying. First, expand the old buildings, whatever you can, make it as large as you can, as long as it says here adequately sized. It's not going to say too big, because if it's going to say too big, then they're just going to waste some of the things that's going to be inside your farm. Okay, so again, expand. Don't just make new ones just because you want to. And that should be everything that you need to know, aside from the very basics, which I already assume that you know if you're watching this video. If you don't already know the very basic, I assume maybe studied at the start, but who cares? If you don't really know the basics and you're kind of confused by a lot of things that I said, I have a video called How To Foundation, which basically goes over all the very, very basic things of how to play the game. Just again, I'm gonna assume that you already know. go watch that if you don't. If you enjoyed this one, then thank you. If you didn't, then let me know why. I'm really interested to know if it actually helped you, like what percentage of it, or like how much of it did you actually find useful, how much of it you do, or yeah, I knew this one, I didn't need to tell me that, that kind of thing. So that's gonna be it. I'm Judson. If you did, thank you. If you didn't, let me know why. Peace out, keep us safe. See you next one. Bye bye.